story. For more on these developments in Iraq and the arrival of Abu Khatallah now in the U.S., let's bring in House Foreign Affairs Chairman Ed Royce. Congressman, welcome. Great to have you here today.
Thank you, Oma.
First off, your reaction to the news that Abu Khatallah is now in the U.S. Do you think his criminal prosecution should be postponed until investigators have more time to question him over time?
Well, my concern all along has been to give him the full due process rights of an American citizen. Seems like a very odd thing to do for a senior commander here in this al-Qaeda offshoot. He should have gone to Guantanamo Bay. He should have been interrogated. Typically in a situation like this, I think of one of the Somalis who was interrogated for 2 months. I'm concerned we're not going to get the information out of him that we could have got, which would have led to other terrorist leaders.
What specifics are you aware of at this time about his actual role during the Benghazi attack?
Well, what we do know is he's charged with murder. We know also he's charged with planning. We know that eyewitnesses saw him there on the scene, overseeing part of the attack. So I think we have him dead to rights. The question is, what other terrorists could he lead us to had we handled this in a competent way? So
you think that option is now closed to learn that information?
I'm presuming that it's quite unlikely at this point, and I also think it's highly unusual that we would be trying him in this entirely new venue of Washington, D.C.
So what do you think the thinking is behind this?
Well, I've heard that the Attorney General has had a role here. I think he has an ally who's a prosecutor in Washington, D.C., who would like to take this case. For what reason, I don't know, but that's not where the expertise is. The expertise is either going to be in Guantanamo, if you did it right, or in the Southern District of New York. So there's no telling with this administration, is the conclusion I've come to. It took 18 months when he was in broad daylight doing interviews to bring him into custody. So I have no understanding right now as to why they're doing it this way.
It raises all kinds of questions. Let's turn now to Iraq for a moment. Some may say that the fact that we have Predator drones operating in that region is a sign that the U.S. is stepping up its military involvement, and that this isn't the right move, since it will be seen as a move to take sides, and that could backfire. How do you see it?
The time to action was at the time that we got the request last August that ISIS was going over the border in Iraq and planning to attack cities. At that point, you could use drones to make airstrikes on these columns out on the open desert. That was the request of not just the government, but also our own embassy in Baghdad said, why don't we use drones for that purpose? That was declined by the president. And to my knowledge, the opportunity to take out actual units of this al-Qaeda offshoot has still been declined by the White House. So we may have overflights, but when we had the opportunity to really set them back and to keep them from racking up these victories, we didn't take it.
So does this play into the concerns that many people have had by the fact that it seems that the U.S. has been taken off guard by the swift success of the militant group called ISIS? As I understand it, as you're pointing out, also, there was intelligence indicating that this was a group that was deadly serious about its purpose, and the fact that the Iraqis made requests for drone strikes, and also we heard that our embassy was making those requests for nearly a year, suggests that, from your point of view at least, that this administration did not take this threat seriously.
And the reason we're worried about this particular al-Qaeda offshoot is because they've recruited for people from the United States and Europe and have expressed the intention of training them and sending them back to carry out attacks. So when you're dealing with al-Qaeda, you've got to take it seriously. You've got to have good intelligence, and you should take them out when you have the opportunity.
So let me ask you this. Do you think there will be little or no progress unless Maliki steps aside? And if so, who do you think should lead Iraq?
I'm very encouraged that al-Sistani, that the leader, has called for Maliki to step aside. Maliki needs to step down, because if he does, then clearly there's the express intent by the other Shia groups and by the Sunnis and by the Kurds to come together and form a unity government. That's frankly what the country needs. Maliki is in the way of that. He should step down.
Let's reflect on what's going on with the president and his bid to get more money also to Syria. He wants $500 million to train Syrian rebels, which would get U.S. closer to direct involvement in that civil war. Is Congress likely to approve this funding, and why now? What will this money really do at a time when this conflict is now 3 years old? You have more than 100,000 people dead, and rebel groups like ISIS gaining momentum there and spreading their terror across Iraq right now.
Well, remember where this is directed, though. This is in Jordan. Jordanians are doing the training now. And ISIS is on the border of Jordan. And so a key ally here is threatened. So as I understand it, this is not for U.S. combat. This is to train, to assist the Jordanians in training the Free Syrian Army, which may in fact help protect Jordan from being overrun by ISIS. So I think we are going to learn more when we go back into session on this, but for some time now it has been a concern because ISIS is not just interested in taking Syria, and part of Iraq. They're also interested in Jordan, Israel, Lebanon.
It has its sights on Jordan right now, as you point out. So do you think Congress is likely to approve this funding?
I think it is likely that it will be approved because I think the Kingdom of Jordan and our concerns about Israel and that all being the target for this caliphate means that we're going to want to see actions taken to help protect those countries from ISIS.
At the moment, though, the options look like they're quite complicated, and there doesn't look to be a clear path towards any type of victory at this moment.
I wish we had hit ISIS when it was coming over the border, when it had 5,000 combatants, and we're on that open road. You know, with one of those drones, you can look down, you can readily see the black flags and the ski masks, and you can tell those units, and you can knock them out. That was the time to hit them, when it was requested by the government in Iraq and when it was requested by our own embassy.
Wow. Chairman Royce, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today with your insights.